I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, December the 17th, where cows are moving. I tell you what, especially up there in Nebraska, those places have had a big storm move through, but they're still doing business. And the bad winter that they had last winter, and then the spring floods, I tell you what, it was more than a lot of people could take. They went ahead and held on to the cattle through the spring and the summer and stayed with it, but a lot of them getting out. And I tell you what, they've got a big sale in Bassett, Nebraska, a special cow and heifer sale on Wednesday here. They've got 2,500 to 3,000 head. The quality will be outstanding. It starts at 10 a.m. They've got 7 big dispersals on that deal, and Shane tells me the quality is outstanding. Those cattle are big home raised deals for the most part, coming out of the sand hills of Nebraska there. And you know, you hear some of the big prices that I talk about western Nebraska, the kind of cattle that it takes to get those. These are the kind of cattle you can get at this sale. You can send an order in there. You can get on Cattle USA and bid on those cows and heifers there, and pretty good deal. Valentine, Nebraska, not too far away up there in northwest Nebraska, they had a big cow special the end of last week, and the results from that sale, those top bred cows moving all the way up into some cows that were almost short and solids, but bringing 18 to 1900 for the top quality there, which it might sound high to some of you. It might sound worth the money to some of you to get that kind of quality, but I think people are kind of paying attention. They're seeing how many cows we're sending to slaughter. We've had just a huge increase in our beef cow slaughter all of this past year and all of the year before. We're up over 10% this year, and it might be time to re-up, guys. And you could just hope that you have at least half as many new young people getting into the deal as there is older guys getting out. But I hate to see our number of producers thinning down, but it's just kind of the progression, the way things are going. The weather's been a big part of it, the markets and everything. But they had top bred heifers there in Valentine last week, 1475 to 1650. So I'd say that's a pretty strong market. But here on Monday, Valentine sold the weigh-ups off of those cows. Of course, they ran all those cows through the chute and had a lot of cows were open and just weigh-ups off the deal to clean the deal up. Almost 2,100 head of weigh-up cows. And Greg told me that about half of those would go back to feed, those thinner cows, and they were selling for around 50 cents, those good thin cows, to go back to feed, and they'll put a quick come on, and then guys can find a better killer cow market to sell those off of. He said the big thin cows going right to slaughter, bringing from 50 to 60, and then they were knocking the feeder guys out. But a lot of cows moving, big specials all across the Midwest. Late in the year, they always do that for some people that might be interested in making the purchases there for tax reasons late in the year, and then the other guys can kind of either take it or defer till after January. But lots of cows moving out here in Virginia. I tell you what, and I was hanging out with Butch Foster and all around Southwest Virginia there and around Abingdon, and gave a talk there at the Abington Feeder Cattle Association meeting. Had a great crowd, around 400 head of people, and I'm used to talking about cattle, but everybody in pretty good moods there. But one thing that guys were talking about is how the packer cows are stacked up around the stockyards in Southwest Virginia, because they've moved so many through, and the cow plants just can't take them yet. So basically they're just paying the sale barns to yard and feed those cows, and it ain't a bad deal for them. But let's talk about what else went on the board. On Monday, December live cattle futures down 7 cents, not too bad at 122.30 after the big gains that we saw on Friday. Held up pretty well. February was down 30 cents on live cattle to end the day at 127.25. January feeder cattle down 42 cents at 145.25, and some of those losses could be chalked up to the big gains we saw in the grain markets. And March down 65 cents at 145.60. The market's still absorbing this new U.S.-China deal that Trump's got done for us, and looks like it's going to be a big gangbuster for ag products, as they're going to buy 40 to 50 billion dollars over each year for the next 2 years at least. So that's what we've been kind of waiting on. Your corn futures up 6.5 to 7 cents on Monday. Beans up 14.5 cents. Hogs got a jolt finally, up over $1. So it's big for your ag futures with that China deal already in the phase 1, and then we'll be looking forward to what comes on after that. Weighted average on last week's negotiated cash trade in your 5-area feeding region. Pretty good movement, maybe better than what we thought. I think we saw more of that higher trade on Friday than what we thought, but 70,900 head. That compares to 71,200 head last week and 60,000 head the same week a year ago, which that gives you an idea. We're moving right in here to the holidays, and we didn't think that they needed that many cattle, but you know, normally around 71,000 wouldn't be a good movement, but right here going into the holidays, it's not too awful bad. Nationwide, about 93,100 head, so significant number moving in those fringes around the outside of the 5-area feeding region, and around 29% of those for the 15 to 30 day delivery, which is kind of significant. I've been talking here for the last 3 weeks that packers did not need any cattle to finish up this year, but they bought the lion's share of the movement, 71%, to be delivered within the next 2 weeks. So more packer psychology there for you. But your market for your weighted average, your live steers and heifers range from 117 to 122, mostly 119 up to 120 late on your live steers and heifers. Your live steer weighted average in your 5-area feeding region, 119.17, so that's significant. It was over 119, so we did have a fair amount selling up in the 20s there, but that was up 25 cents compared to the weighted average from the previous week. Your dressed steers and heifers, 187 to 194, mostly 188 to 190, and significant 190 there on Friday, and it boosted your weighted average on dressed steers up to 189.54. That's up $1.44. Box beef cutout values seem to have bottomed out last week, as they found some firm footing here to start the week out at least. Of course, you're not going to have big movements leading right up into the holidays here, but Packers not backing up those values anymore, and they had a good clean out of their coffers last week with a huge movement. So we've probably seen that bottom out for a while, and should kind of hold steady here for the rest of the year. Look at your feeder cattle markets. Your real-time index late Monday, 143.46, up 11 cents, so gained a little bit of ground there and at least fully steady. Your big high volume Monday sales, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma National Stockyards, around 10,000 head there. Called feeder steer calves. Your bigger calves got to go right to feed, weighing 600 to 700 pounds, $2 lower for obvious reasons, but your bigger feeders, including yearlings weighing over 700 pounds, $1 to $3 higher. Feeder heifers steady to $2 higher. So I think the word got out on how cheap some of your heifers were getting last week compared to the steers, and it kind of started to even out a little bit as buyers come in there to sop up some of those cheaper heifers. Your calves were kind of lightly tested, and kind of a higher undertone on your heifer calves, and maybe a little bit cheaper on the calves on the early test. Your All-American Beef Battalion fundraiser there raised $49,000 on Monday at Oklahoma City, and that's just a great thing. That feeds steaks to our service people for big events and homecomings. All those have been deployed, both active and retired service people, and that's a great program that Oklahoma City supports there. And you got to give some credit to Kelly Payne, the general manager there. She's doing a great job since she took over, and the morale around the stockyards is just really good since Kelly took over, and she's promoting things and really doing a lot of positive for the Oklahoma National Stockyards. Joplin Regional Stockyards, 5,400 head there. Had a kind of a lighter run because of kind of bad roads and wintry conditions there early in the week around Joplin. all classes in Joplin, selling mostly steady, except for the heifer calves. They're again steady to $2 higher on those. And like I said, the word kind of got out on how much cheaper those heifers were compared to steers, and the things usually come back. And that's why I say guys should never complain about you're getting advertisement from kind of a hole in the market or a down market, because it usually levels itself out the next week as the word kind of gets out. Oklahoma City will not have another sale for the rest of the year. So they're done for 2 weeks for a 2-week break. Joplin is going to have a sale on Thursday for those guys that want to get cleaned up, and things are still pretty active around. And with Christmas not falling until the middle of the next week, I think you're good to go ahead and sell some cattle with everything really positive right now, so I wouldn't be afraid of it at all. They are selling all classes of cattle at Joplin Regional Stockyards on Thursday. So not just a pure weanback special like they normally have on Thursday, but all classes if you guys want to go ahead and get your cattle marketed here before the end of the year. Some top quotes that come in on Monday. Ted Baum, Elgin, Nebraska there. Don't forget that's pretty darn close to the yellow brick road there on Highway 20 also. And they can sell them even though it's on the eastern side. 53 head, 505-pound steer calves, $177.50. That's a pretty good quote on 5-weight steers. But the top quote on big yearling feeder steers come out of McCook, Nebraska, on the opposite end of the state, tri-state livestock, 66 head, 888 pounds at $152.50. That's your feeder flash for Tuesday.